Okay, hey guys. So this is another Vibin and Stuff with thought-provoking conversations with me and my friend. And today I have a friend of mine named Dr. Stephanie Opusunju. And I pretty much we were talking the other day and we talked about like coronavirus and things like that. And I thought it would be great to kind of have a conversation where we talked about, just what's going on in the medical world and, the nature of what a virus is and stuff like that. So I wanted to say thank you so much, first of all, Stephanie.
You're so welcome.
I appreciate your time greatly. And so I've known Stephanie for quite some years now, and it's been beautiful to see her growth. And I'd love for you, Stephanie, to kind of just introduce yourself and, just tell a little about who you are.
Okay. My name is Opusunju, as she said. She said it better than me. I said the American version. That's fine. Whatever. I am a medical doctor. I finished med school back in 2016, and it's been an interesting career trajectory, but I wound up in internal medicine and will be finishing my residency this year in June, looking for very few primary care positions and then just kind of expanding into so many other things. But yeah, my passion is for medicine, but also for mental health. I did my first year in psychiatry and decided to make the switch from psychiatry to internal medicine just based on the fact that I wanted to take care of patients with mental health issues within the context of their medical illnesses. But I found through the journey that that may have been what I needed to do, but have I stuck with it? I honestly, mental health issues are fraught in everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So I get to use my unique gifts and expertise in a variety of arenas. So I really appreciate that. More things about me, I guess. I live in Dallas. I plan to stay here.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, and I'm single. And just really on a journey through life. And it took a major reckoning to understand that this life is meant to be lived after overcoming so many limiting beliefs. So that is my mission, to empower others.
Awesome. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Life is meant to be lived. And that's beautiful that, you kind of have gone from this journey of like realizing the importance of mental health and the connection of it to physical health. So that's really, well, mental health is a part of the physical, but like kind of like the physical ailments, I guess we should say.
Totally.
So let's talk about this. So why did you become a doctor?
Well, do you want the answer that I gave the interviewers, or which? Honestly, it was really interesting because I grew up in a very non-conventional Nigerian household. And I say that in that I had a single mom and my younger brother, and she was always very open-minded and encouraged me to do whatever it is that my passion, wherever my passion lied, she encouraged. And so I was very interested in journalism and very interested in, I wanted to be like a pundit on a major news channel.
You can still do that, girl. Dr. Opusunju here with the news.
Right. Right? I decided that is what I thought I would do. And then I found that I had a real aptitude for the sciences. I was excelling in them. And then it just kind of naturally, being, I guess, someone that's high achieving, I was like, well, let me just go for the gold. It sounds like medicine could be cool. If I don't get medicine, then maybe I'll be a dentist. If I don't get dentist, maybe I'll be a pharmacist. So I just kept, and so I went for the gold, and then it just kind of like happened. I get to med school, and it was like, wait, what? Huh? Because mind you, I was only 20 years old when I started med school. And I was like 19 when I graduated from college. So everything was super fast. And I say that not to pat myself on the back, but more so to say that in it being that everything was so abbreviated, I didn't really know myself enough to know what I was really passionate about and where my niche lied. But over the journey, like I say, the journey of everything is so important. It's important for us to understand and just take delight in the journey. instead of trying to resist it, because I met it. I felt like medicine was robbing me of a lot of my 20s, and I felt like I was resisting it so much. And it was only when the resistance kind of like abated, able to see this is just such a beautiful field. I found my niche within it.
That's so nice. Yeah. That's so nice. Yeah, I'm like, oh, it's nice to hear. I'm like, that's so good. That's so good. But yeah, that's beautiful. I feel like that journey, the medical journey, it's taxing. And talking to you, previously, you talked about the taxingness of it. So it's beautiful to hear, you talk about this kind of understanding that this is a bigger purpose, essentially. This purpose that you didn't understand why you were there for, but now it's like kind of unveiling to you daily and will continue to manifest to you as the 80 years more of life come along.
Yes,
yes, 80 more years of life. We speak to that.
200. Do you hear me?
Right. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to kind of take this conversation to kind of talk a little bit about, because you're fresh out of med school, you probably remember, a little more about the things of like viruses and the nature of them and things like that. So I kind of wanted, with this whole coronavirus situation that's going on, that we're all living in, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what a virus is before we go into like what this lifestyle of corona is doing and things like that. So can you kind of just break down what exactly a virus is? Like, we all know that, we have the flu, we have, HIV and all these viruses. So what is a virus, and like, how does it behave? Is it living? I know it's not living, but like, break it down for us.
Well, yeah, no, I'm going to have to go deep into the recesses of my memory to access. But what a virus essentially is, it's just like an encapsulated piece of DNA or RNA or whatever is the building blocks for propagating itself, right? As you and I exist, what is our purpose? To procreate. And that's all the virus is concerned about. Self-preservation.
I mean, I'm not living to my purpose.
Right? Never mind. To do is make more copies of itself. So they exist, that DNA or RNA, which basically exists inside a capsid, okay? It's not a living particle. It's just like a little fragment of DNA inside of it. And they're very simple, right? And so what they do is that they enter a host, and inside that host, they'll hijack that host cell, right? And I guess, corrupt the machinery so that all that cell is now doing is producing more virus. I mean, how rude. It's not more of the cell for the biological, whatever it's inside of, it's only producing more virus. Like, it's so fascinating to me that the virus is that smart that it can hijack a cell, corrupt its DNA, and make it so that it just makes more copies of the virus. And that does two things. It overwhelms the body, right? So now at the cellular level, the body's not, let's say it's inside of a respiratory cell, like, in the case of corona, it's no longer doing its normal respiratory cell functioning, right? It's just existing to make virus. So can you imagine what effects that would have on the rest of the respiratory system? And then that also kind of hurts. It sets off an inflammatory response in the person's body that now, that also is just really, really bad. So viruses, I guess they were first kind of discovered when someone found that tobacco plants were just dying all over the place, and they weren't sure what was causing it. And then after looking at more like the architecture of these tobacco plants, they found that there was a virus that was affecting the tobacco plants. So viruses can infect all kinds of living, biologically living organisms or whatever it is. And it's really interesting. Viruses can even infect their viruses. You know what I mean? So just think of it, a very simplistic...
Wait, say that again. You said viruses can infect viruses?
They can, and hijack that virus to now produce more of its own self, right?
Okay. So let me ask you this. Okay, so what you said was that the virus goes into the body and it hijacks a cell. right? And
Right.
starts replicating. So does that mean that like the healthy cells are no longer producing, or is it that they're just confused in there? Like what happened?
They're confused. I think that's a good way to put it. The cell has its own DNA, right? And its own DNA tells it, okay, when it transcribes this DNA, it tells it what to do. So let's say there's a myocyte, a cell in the heart, right? That tells it to pump, it assists in like the pumping function, and it makes proteins that assist in that whole process. But now the virus has now without going into too much scientific detail, it basically gives its own DNA to that cell, hijacks it so that that cell is no longer doing its normal function. I can't really explain any further, but it's no longer doing normal function. You know what I mean?
Okay. Okay, I guess one has to understand what it takes for like cells to reproduce, because I'm like, because I'm like, okay, so if this virus cell, because what I understood was that the RNA now it attaches to your cell, right? The virus attaches to your cell, and then it starts replicating, like you said, the virus cell. So then now I'm wondering, like, okay, so you talked about specifically cells of the respiratory system. I'm like, okay, so are the lungs producing any regular cells while the virus cell is there? You know what I mean?
There are other cells that are being produced, but can you imagine there's more virus that are kind of overwhelming the system and then now infecting the other cells as well.
Oh,
so they're all just kind of struggling out in these streets.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's incredible, but so HIV works like that. All the viruses, work like that. And whatever means they do it by, they may use, reverse transcriptase, they may be DNA viruses, RNA, there's a variety. But the main function or the reality is that, or the bottom line is that the cell is no longer doing what it's supposed to do. And cells make up tissues and tissues make up organs. And so you can imagine how the system just gets really overloaded.
Right. Okay. So now I'm going to ask this question. So we talk about people are asymptomatic that have the virus. So the cells are over there doing this thing in their body, but their body is not disturbed by it. Like their body's okay with it. Like how did somebody become asymptomatic with a virus inside them?
So I don't think that it is so much the virus itself, because these viruses, the body is maybe strong enough to identify the virus and now make antibodies against it in a young, healthy, non-immunocompromised individual. You know what I mean? However, it is not so much just the virus coming in. These people may have mild symptoms or whatever, but it is the inflammatory response that is so robust that is landing people into the ICU and that is making them very, very sick. And the inflammatory response is basically the body's response to that virus. So your body is going to respond super, super, super robustly, if it feels like this virus is such a major threat. And a lot of, older individuals, either their bodies are going to react very poorly. And so their system is going to just want to have a really robust immune response, or they don't even have their immune response is so weakened that the virus can just go in and just have its own way. So it's not so much the presence of the virus just being there, right? Because as I exist and as I'm sitting here, there's virus on me, like I'm covered in virus. I'm disgusting.
No.
I'm covered in all this. You are too.
Don't say that. Go take a shower. Then I'll get more virus in the shower. Oh my God.
Our bodies don't feel the need to OD response, whereas other people do. And that's what we're trying to figure out, who are more susceptible. I mean, recent data even is showing that some people that have been infected can become reinfected. So we're really just trying to understand the nature of this virus and why some people are more infected than others. And a lot of this kind of the story, the jury still remains out.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, what is this whole concept behind being asymptomatic and having a virus? So if you don't have any symptoms and you have the virus, I guess it's kind of like people that have HIV and then they don't know that they have it for a while. But like, what is it about a virus that somebody won't have symptoms and they have the virus?
That's a really good question. The most that I can even say.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Like at the very like scientific level, I'm not sure that I can even speak very intelligibly on that, besides the fact that I know how the virus is going to react in like each person's body. You know what I mean? So as I was to my point like earlier, a younger person is going to be able to handle this overwhelm. Right. The body system is like able to make more cells, more normal cells than affected cells. You know what I mean? Whereas someone that's immunocompromised, so it just, in the case of, I guess, people that have, and then, I mean, another thing is, in the case of like rhinovirus, which causes the common cold, right? Why do some people get really devastatingly sick with rhinovirus or influenza for that matter? Right. And other people just get influenza, no
right. So right.
It also depends on your exposure to these things. We don't know when we've been exposed to these things, if our bodies have made antibodies towards it. Right. And it's not just a black and white antibody, okay? It may be an antibody to a certain part of it. You know what I mean? So it's super nuanced. And
it's so deep.
Yeah,
it's so deep. Like, yeah.
It's like, I can't even.
Yeah, because I'm so curious, but yeah, it's I'm sure those people in those virology labs would be, and that's good to be able to kind of understand like the top level of it, so I appreciate that kind of like understanding there. So now let's talk about, okay, we get this virus and we're talking about healing, right? So what is it that somebody should understand about healing from a virus? And like, what do you think as far as foods playing into it with the whole antiviral concept? Like, do you feel like that's actually a valid thing? Like, what do you think about that whole antiviral with nutrition, medicine? Like, how does that work?
So the most I can say, so basically you're getting at like immunity boosting things that we can do on our own, because we are on our own. We don't have a vaccine. We don't have any FDA approved medications. We don't have anything that's really going to say, that's really going to confer us a lot of like immunity towards this thing. So the best thing that we can do is try to optimize our own health, right? Because it has demonstrated that it affects people that have any sort of underlying condition, immunocompromised state, any sort of comorbidities, diabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, high cholesterol, all the things. You don't want to have any. You don't want to give the virus any opportunity to come at you.
No, we don't.
So I think it plays a very significant role. Obviously, a lot of, and the thing of it is, a lot of
avocado.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. Chock full with a lot of fat soluble vitamins, avocados, and they're really good. And that's the thing. We don't know how optimal each of us like truly are. I will say that making sure that you get your adequate days, like nutrition, making sure that you're getting, basically all the food groups and all the serving sizes that are suggested of everything. So you're making sure you're getting all the vitamins and minerals, because those are cofactors. Those are cofactors, those are cofactors in cellular functioning, right? So think of any vitamin or mineral or anything like zinc or copper, or, those elements on the periodic table exist in our bodies to allow cellular functions to happen, right? And when cellular functions happen, our bodies are operating normally.
It's so crazy to think that we are the periodic table of elements.
We are at the very elemental level. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
And I do find the benefit in that, just to answer your question in general.
Got you. Okay. So you're like, okay. It essentially, like, you do think that people should be thinking about like their nutritional habits, essentially, especially right now with this virus, like to focus on the immune boosting kind of lifestyle.
I absolutely agree with that. I also agree with going to the doctor and making sure that your general health is intact. We as millennials, we are now getting into the age where we're like, late 20s, early 30s, all this stuff, things are emerging at this time. And we drink out of alcohol, alcohol use disorder. Some people do other kinds of things.
Some people.
Some people, diabetes and hypertension start to rear its ugly head at this time. I have several patients that are like 30, 29, hypertension on medications.
Wow.
So it's important to get labs done and see that you're not having any sort of decline in your liver functioning or any sort of decline in your kidney functioning. You know what I mean? And correct those. Stop drinking if you drink in excess. Be hydrated so that your kidneys can, those are very, I guess, basic kind of primary care things to make sure that you're in tip-top shape. And then beyond that, you can start thinking about, okay, in what ways can I fortify my diet and my supplement my nutrition? So I would recommend, vitamin C. In studies, that has been shown to be associated with a decreased risk of developing colds. I would recommend vitamin D, which is, our cells possess what's called a vitamin D receptor. So it's super, it's obvious that there's some sort of role in modulating our cell functioning as far as vitamin D is concerned, right? And so that's been shown. It's been studied in like multiple sclerosis and a lot of autoimmune type of diseases that you're fortified with it. It's so much better. So the recommended dose is 200, 400 international units. I would recommend that. Zinc also, kind of the jury's out. And those things are present in things like Emergency. You'll see on the back of those things or any sort of supplement that you're getting like 1,000% of your daily dose. And you're like, excuse me?
Right.
Like that's like, it'll kill me. But there are some vitamins that are water soluble, meaning that if you go above the daily recommended value, you're just going to pee it out. So it's not going to harm you. But certain ones, there's what's called hypervitaminosis. So you can have too much vitamin D. You can have too much vitamin E. You can have too much vitamin A, So,
I thought for pregnant women, women don't want too much vitamin A or something like that in their bodies.
No, it'll mess with your baby's eyes. So, yeah.
I was like, interesting. I'm learning stuff. I was like, Google, I might be a doctor. I might be a doctor now. But yeah, I think that's major keys right there. And, they say the sun gives us vitamin D, right? So it's like, how do we know how much sun to milligram, how do we?
That's a good question, because I don't even know the exact kind of equivalent, like dosing, how much.
Yeah.
I think it equates to kind of like minutes in the sun to how much vitamin D. And I wish I had this, because there's definitely a fact and figure. But I will say that if you're going to be in the sun, I don't care. You're Black. You need sun protection. You need UV. And I'm recommending SPF, sun protective factor greater than 50 or above. Like,
really?
Yeah, definitely. And also that keeps our skin intact and nice and baby-like. So, yeah, if you're going to be in the sun, I would caution you to do that.
Okay, so I definitely need to go get some sunblock, because I just be out here, I kind of tell, I just be out here. But yeah, so now with this whole virus situation, like, what is your perspective on like how we can kind of stay properly informed? Because, there's a lot of people out here making videos, making YouTube videos about different remedies and, things to do. And then, we hear the World Health Organization tells us one thing, and then they tell us another thing the next day. Like, so it's like, how, like, in your perspective, like, from what you're hearing in your community, how do you feel that we can stay best informed?
So, I guess there's, this is a multi-layered question, but, there's two wings of staying informed, like staying informed as far as your health, which there's that. And then there's staying informed as far as like, what's like policy and, that kind of thing as well. I would say I use a two-pronged approach to this, like personally, just because number one, don't allow fear to be the driving force of your information seeking. You know what I mean? I cannot enough, because that fear and anxiety is what it's gonna do is it's gonna now, so many things. You're gonna now anchor on things that you hear that may be bad, and so you'll that's what will be the narrative running in your mind. You're going to kind of even be seeking out the more negative information. You're going to be dwelling on that. It's mentally, taxing. It's really bad. And then number two, understand that nobody knows anything. I mean, there are people, okay, I want to say that. That with a grain of salt. Obviously, we have our experts and officials that are giving us, information as it rolls out. But understand that they too all of this is newly developing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. All of this is newly developing to anyone. So anything that anyone is saying is really mostly kind of just conjecture until we know enough about this. You know what I mean? Like we can say all these things and we can say what we know about existing viruses.
Right.
How they have behaved and extrapolate that into how this one might behave. But until we get that hardcore data, and I don't trust any data coming out of China, there is some data coming out of Europe, Italy. I don't know that I can really, I don't know. So having some level of suspicion, but also not allowing fear to be the driving force, and understanding that, as things develop, trust in the experts to be giving us the better information. So any information you're getting, it should likely be from somebody that's been well vetted and venerated in their field.
Good answer. Yeah, it's interesting because, personally, I'm I want to hear more from China. I want to know, I want these Chinese doctors to come on something and tell us what happened when this virus first started. Because now they're saying there's 30-something strains. How many strains did you guys see in China? How many strains were there? And then now, how many developed in Europe? And how many strains did they see there? I'm just I want to see that stuff from the Chinese. How many strains did you guys have? But like you said, how do we know the data they're giving us is real?
Is real, is an actual population.
Right. They're being very elusive. Yeah, they're being so elusive over there. So it's very challenging because I'm how is it that we're seeing so many American doctors that newly saw this virus and we're not seeing enough Chinese? I've only seen one interview with Chinese doctors. Only one.
They're so private. Yeah.
No.
The thing of it is, I will say, they have been putting out a lot of more clinical data, which is very useful to us. For example, some of the prodromal symptoms like anosmia, loss of smell, loss of taste, those kind of things. There's even a paresthesias, and then another one that I
What is a paresthesias? I'm sorry.
Numbness and tingling in the
okay.
Yeah, and another one I heard that was blueness or purplishness of the feet. In the days, it's bizarre. So when they share that information, we're whoa, we are seeing that too. And doctors in Italy are yeah, we saw that too. So that kind of clinical stuff. But the more I'm so sorry, statistical stuff, I'm I don't know.
Yeah. The interview I saw, the guy who put out the journal that the US is using, he was in it. So he was yeah, I'm the one who put that out. He was it's me. He was humble bragging about it. That one it was me, guys. It was me. I was right. And that was before they told us to wear the mask. And in that interview, they were all wearing masks. So I was these people I was over there watching, why are these people wearing masks? And, over here, we're not. I feel we should be wearing masks. Yeah. And then that Friday, that was when the US started saying, okay, everybody should wear masks. And then I was
so prophetic. Oh my gosh.
I was these Chinese people have been wearing masks. Their whole interview, the guy would talk, and before he would even say another word, he's covering his whole nose. He was my nose ain't gonna show. Nobody else was talking in the room. So I was this is before they said it was living in the air. And I was talking to a friend. I said, I feel this thing might be in the air or something, because these people were covering their face and they're the only ones talking.
Yeah.
So I just want more Chinese people to talk. But I think that is valid to what you're saying, that essentially we have to take any information with a grain of salt. We don't know what is real, what is not, but we just have to realize that this virus is real, and whatever the professionals are telling us, we do have to take regard to. So now I have a question for you about masks and gloves.
Uh-huh.
Okay. How do people properly wear a mask and like live and function with masks? And how should people be properly wearing gloves? Because
Well, okay. So, I mean, currently there's just kind of recommendations on the masks, which I will say this. Obviously, some masks are better than others. There are surgical masks, there are N95 masks, and meaning that what makes a mask better than another one is the amount of particles that it can prevent from entering, right? So some are more porous and some are like not, like N95 masks can't penetrate. But the reality is that you're not wearing the mask so much to prevent you from getting it, but to prevent you from spreading it, right? So any barrier protection is important. In fact, a study I think that I had seen that they did in some lab or whatever, they had people sneeze in various different like barrier protective methods. And even with just a bandana or a cloth mask, it prevented the spread of the person's like droplets and the momentum of their droplets by like 60 something percent. So it was just very important to just wear the mask. So understand that, you know, some people are like, this is just ridiculous. I went to the store the other day and the guy's like, you know, this is so stupid. And I'm like, well, you know, and so there's that. And so just wear your mask. Any mask you have will do. And as far as but there's another thing called keeping the mask clean. Like you want to if you have a cloth mask, you want to wash your mask. You have a disposable mask, you want to get a new one each day.
How often should you wash it?
So I think what I've been seeing is like every day, which is unrealistic for a lot of people to wash it every day. And you need to wash it like through the washing machine, like an actual wash cycle. Hand washing is also effective as well. But what that more so does isn't really like, it's more so for secondary infection. So whatever's existing, whatever has accumulated now on that mask, it's on your face all day. Can you imagine now getting infected from something that's been on that mask?
Yeah.
So that's important to clean that mask. And then as far as gloves, right? Because, you know, because there's other viruses still out here. It's not just corona. You don't know what you can be, or bacteria that you can be getting. So then, and then the other approach with the gloves, I don't really wear gloves as much as I probably should. I don't know that there's a current like recommendation on that, but if you're wearing gloves, I would say it's important to take them off properly. That's more so what I would say. Apply them properly and take them off properly, meaning you're putting your thumb underneath and not really touching and not really, you know, because that glove is a cesspool. Okay. Our hands are cesspools, but that glove is even more so a cesspool. Okay. Because our hands make oils and biological enzymes that can kill some stuff. That glove is gross.
I'm just so curious because it's like, okay, there's two things. So the mask part, I'm like, what I'm wondering is like, okay, people will wear the mask, right? Like we wear the mask and then it gets hot. And
so gross.
And then now, let's say we're at the grocery store and then you pull it down so you can breathe and then put it back on again with hands that are wearing the gloves and then touch your grocery cart. Gosh. And then
it's a lot, and you're not supposed to be touching the mask. It's a lot of touching going on. So being very cognizant of I've never been more cognizant of my hands, like in my life. I'm a huge nail biter. My nails are growing at this time. You know, like, so you're so right. So many opportunities for, you know, spread. All I can say is try to wash your hands, try to dispose of them, because nobody really knows what's going on out here. But all for real.
I was like
sanitizing the handles and stuff, but I don't know.
There was a guy at the store that I go to here. I won't say the name, but there was a guy at the store, and he was like spraying the things with the sanitizing disinfectant thing, but like not wiping it down, just like leaving it wet. And then he wasn't wearing a mask or gloves. And I was like, this just doesn't look like it's real sanitizing because he's not wearing the Glover mask and he's just out here just like because it could through breathing and talking it could be so
Totally.
if this homie that is standing at the door, could have potentially have this virus because he's talking to all of us, and handing all of us the card. He's not even wearing any protective layer, like so. It was just a real like I was like this whole new normal that we're living in is real confusing.
I'm gonna need there to be some like a streamlined, everyone's doing the same thing,
right?
Regulation.
I'm in the store, I'm wearing my mask, my gloves, and I'm real particular. Like, I'm like, okay, because now I'm like, okay, what do I touch? Now I've touched this eggs, and then I'm touching my cell phone, and I'm like, I just swiped to my phone so that whatever was on my glove has now touched my phone, and I'm like, now I can't put this on my face.
No,
because I've touched.
Go to the keypad and have to press the numbers. Some places cover it, some places don't. Some places have a barrier, like window thing. Some places, I don't know. I'm just like, what am I doing here?
Right. I'm like, how do I talk on the phone now? Do I just speakerphone? So I'm just there, like speakerphone, walking through this grocery store with my phone on speaker.
Everyone hears your conversation.
I was like, this is the new normal. But then there's people that are just like, I don't want to get paranoid, so I'm not going to do any of it.
Right.
But then
we're dealing with that as well. It's crazy.
We're in a new normal. So I'm just hoping that, we are able to respect these rules more because that's amazing. I didn't know that it was 60%, less chance. And really understanding the fact that some of us can be asymptomatic out here, just out and about thinking we're fine, meanwhile these virus cells are replicating in our body. And then one conversation and a little spit particle lands on somebody else's lip.
Oh gosh.
Or egg container.
Yeah. And it lives on surfaces. We know that now. Like,
it's a lot. And I think one of the major things you said, which was that we shouldn't live in fear, is such a big deal because, fear causes stress. Stress causes cortisol. Cortisol weakens our immune system, and it's so we have to be mindful that we're not living in fear. At the same time, we have to respect the strength of this invisible or non-visible to the regular eye life source. Not life, but whatever we call it, things. This strong thing that just comes into our genetics.
Yeah. It's such a good analogy. No, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I appreciate this conversation, Stephanie. And, I think that, it's beautiful that we have more young doctors that are coming out. And hopefully we're able to kind of be advocates in our community to, be responsible. And just moving on from this virus talk, because I feel like everybody's talking about Corona. What are you doing? What are you doing right now to just kind of grow yourself?
Yeah, that's I unfortunately or fortunately am not quarantined at home. So I don't have as much time to just because I'm still going to work and technically fulfilling work duties. But with no patients, the days are a little bit shorter and I am able to have a little bit more time than I otherwise would not have. And also, too, I'm not spending that time going out to brunch and going out to So I do that stuff, though. So given that little extra time, I'm just like, okay, it's very important for me, not necessarily to come out on the other side of this, if there ever is a hard and fast other side, because this is just going to bleed into the next few years, to be honest. Yeah. I can't see it being any other way.
My wedding will be on video chat.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, seriously. So, embracing that this is just an uncertain time for us all, okay? And when I take that 10,000 foot view and I look at it like that, I'm like, okay, I'm able to sit down and relax in myself and be present each day, which you did mention something about like which book I was reading, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what book are you reading? That was my next question.
No,
I told her the questions before. So.
She literally just asked me, are you reading any books? And I was like, yeah, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which is so, honestly, as someone who has struggled a lot with anxiety.
Wait, say that again? What book?
The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Mm-hmm. And as someone that has struggled a lot with anxiety and limiting beliefs in that way, and the anxiety is like, so much fear for the future, and the depression is so much fear about, or sadness about the past. And when you redirect yourself to the present, like each day, I just say, what is going to serve me today? I'm living for today. I'm not living for 5 days from now. And that's what has forced a lot of us to just sit down and be like, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, in 5 days, next year. So we're all having to come to this reckoning. And some people are really struggling with that. But I think when we redirect ourselves to the now, be present in the now, it's so transformative. It's been transformative. This is my second time reading that book because it's just such a good book, at least for me.
Yeah. No, that book it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It helped me a bit because there was one day I was thinking about all this stuff, and then I was training myself. I was like, okay, now I am at the gas station.
Oh my God.
Forget about what's happening when I drive down the street. I see the numbers on the gas pump. And I was like,
right.
Present.
Present. Because that is where life happens, in the now. It's not happening yesterday. We are shaping our futures and our tomorrows today.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's good. And you see, I'm a vision board person. So I have a vision board behind me and a vision board right here. And
I love it.
So I'm always okay, in the concept of manifesting, and stuff like that. And I think that as someone who's into manifesting, it is important to balance that out with just now I am,
right.
right. And I use tools to do that. So that's beautiful that you're using the time to be present, which, sometimes that presence could cause somebody to be like, shit, right now there's a virus.
Seriously, totally. But just the larger theme is just having a little bit more control of your mind and your thoughts, just in general, just this time, trying to train yourself to just be a more, type of person. So.
Definitely, because in those moments of now, there's so much to be grateful for. Right now we are healthy, and if we weren't healthy and we had the virus, right now we are living. You know what I mean? So there's still something to have gratitude for in every moment. And
no matter how bad your life is, if you get corona, it just got worse. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And if you have corona and you're living, you're still alive.
You're still alive. Exactly. You're not in ICU and you just have mild symptoms. So always thinking about the gratitude, like you say.
That's I'm here, and this little tool right here, this is my journal, this thing, it helps me. Every day I just write whatever random thoughts are going through my head or my dreams and things like that. But that helps me out in these crazy times, that we're living in. But yeah, so is there anything and I know that you're building kind of a brand of elevation, kind of a brand of positivity.
Uh-huh.
So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I guess. What's funny is that, God spoke to me in February, and he told me, because I was like, okay, I've been on this course, I've been on this, but I've had so many experiences, things that have seriously crushed me. I literally wonder how I'm alive and what I'm doing here. And I'm just, after overcoming so much, I'm so thankful to God for opening the blinders from my eyes and revealing himself to me, but for also just overcoming so much and understanding that a lot of purpose is found in our problems and in our. So he spoke he spoke to me and was like, I need you to be use your gifts, which I believe mine to be the gift of like being a good enough motivator. I think I'm a decent speaker, that kind of thing. I think I'm decent at like uplifting people and just very kind of bubbly, and using that to be his hands and feet, to help people that be the person that I so desperately wish that I had, because I wish I had that mentor. I tell people all the time, like, I lacked mentors in my life for so long. A family that was really entrenched in, I mean, they're great, but a lot of generational type curses that I had to feel like I'm that person that has to bring, so
I'm getting goosebumps, girl.
Kind of be like a coach in some way. And what that's going to look like, I don't exactly know. Kind of like a physician coach in some way, or a mindset coach in some way. And I'm just trying things on right now, seeing exactly where it is that I fit, getting involved in, some of the platforms that exist, social media platforms, obviously, and then remaining in the word and just seeing where that leads me. And just keeping my eyes open and my eyes fixed on, things that are above. It's not so much about the follower count or anything like that, or, the amount it's about like, I just want to affect, if I can reach like one person and like pull him out of the drought that I felt like I honestly can't even, without even crying. So that is my goal moving forward. And I just can't wait to see him work.
Yes. I love it. There's so many songs that just were coming to me as you were speaking. I was like, never would have made it.
I love it. With a beautiful voice. That's really nice. She really does.
I was like, I feel like going into praise and worship after you just spoke right now. I'm like, hallelujah, Lord. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I love to see that growth. Like, honestly, I love to see that growth, and to see that you're pushing out to share that with people, because everybody does need somebody, and
really good.
It takes a village, you know what I mean? And it's all of us here that, are here to give this. So I hope that somebody that's hearing this, is able to feel encouraged, or inspired by you and by your story. And that's also kind of where I'm at with kind of putting these videos out there, because I want to be able to uplift people, educate people, and have thought-provoking conversations with my friends.
I admired you and your like entrepreneurial spirit, your creativity, like from a very young age. So, and it's been something that she has like been on for a long time. It wasn't until like I reached my own level of awareness, I was like, yo, so has been on to something. Wow. So, yeah.
Thank you, girl. I appreciate that. I'm constantly growing, and I feel like, it is something where like I do feel the same, where it's like sometimes I wish I had certain conversations around me or certain levels of awareness at an earlier time, and I think it is important for like the people. And then I've also had some great people around me that have like supported me and poured into me and things like that. So, so definitely, where can people find you on social media?
Ooh, on social media. Okay, well, my primary place, I guess, is Instagram, Stephanie.Opusunju on Instagram. And then I'm also on YouTube. It's Stephanie Opusunju again. And there I talk about, so I'm kind of trying to brand this whole thing about helping people kind of take back their power by uplifting them in terms of empowerment, and also talking about health and just mental and physical total health. Super into fitness as well. And then I recently started a TikTok.
Oh, yeah? Wait, that's the thing that people are doing now, right?
Right.
I'm ever doing it.
I'm just like, sky's the limit. Why not? It's fun. From a place of like, I'm trying to have fun. It's not any expectation to it. So I'm also on there at Steffi YYY _O. Okay. And that is it.
We'll probably have that info there. And then, The only reason I didn't get a TikTok was because there was this whole thing where they said that the Chinese are taking our data through the
really?
Yeah, through TikTok. So the U.S. government has banned their workers from using TikTok because of the Chinese intelligence or whatever thing that's going on with TikTok.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. That's the only reason why I didn't. But then it's like, okay, well, like everybody has our information with all of these apps. So is it really?
Yeah. Right. I don't know.
I don't know either. So
until something happens, I guess.
Right. They had a whole like Supreme Court or big court case. I don't know if it was.
No, I gotta look that up.
Yeah, with like the TikTok, because I guess the guy is connected with the Chinese government or something like that, and he has all of our data. our phone behaviors. And you know how these apps really like they hear us and all that stuff. So.
No, totally. It's an actual thing. Like my Google Chrome, I use Google Chrome, like got hijacked. And so, you know, when you type into like the search bar, it doesn't bring me to like the Google search page. Like it brings me to some like Russian type site and it won't allow me to delete Google Chrome. So I'm just out here, man. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I can help you. I can help you with that.
You can?
Yeah, I can.
No, seriously, because it's been happening for the past like, month and a half. And I had a friend who like does like, you know, he kind of techie, trying to help me. And he's like, whoa, it says that someone else is your account manager and we can't change it. I was like, what?
Oh, wait. Oh, that's something. I thought it was a plugin that needs to be uninstalled.
Oh, no, ma'am. It is like deep. So I've switched to Safari, but I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. So anyway, that's just an aside. These threats are real.
Yeah, these things are real. So like, yeah, we have to be mindful, but you know, someone else was saying that it's propaganda. So I was like, well,
it is. Yeah.
I don't know. So maybe one day I'll get it because it looks so fun. TikTok looks so fun. I want to do TikTok.
It's fun. We need to do one together.
Yeah, I'll use your phone so I don't. After social distancing is over.
Exactly. Gotta stay safe.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. I hope you guys enjoyed this vibe. And yeah, make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment, follow, all that good stuff, and continue to spread good vibration in the world.
Stay healthy, distance yourself, and live happy, happy lives. Thank you so much, Soso.
Thank you.
It's a my thing, it's a vibe, it's a my thing, it's a vibe.